Wait, what? I gasped, nearly choking on my drink as Vanessa's voice sliced clean through the hum of conversation. It was me, she said, flashing a radiant smile like she was soaking in the spotlight. My stepdad's eyes lit up with gratitude. My mom's hand flew to her mouth, her eyes welling with tears. The room went still, save for the low whirl of the ceiling fan. I froze, muscles tense, fingers curled into fists in my lap. She didn't just say that. She couldn't have said that. My name is Jessica Neal. I'm 29 and a social worker, someone who prefers staying out of the spotlight, someone who fixes things quietly. Over a year ago, my stepdad Rob was diagnosed with cancer. The news crushed our family, but it devastated my mom the most. Rob was the love of her life, her second chance at happiness. When the bills started stacking higher than we could handle, I knew I couldn't just sit back. So I did what I had to do. I drained my savings and paid off Rob's medical debt anonymously. No one knew. No one except Vanessa, my stepsister. I told her in confidence, believing she'd understand, believing she'd respect the choice to stay silent. Tonight was supposed to be a celebration. Rob was officially in remission. My mom had cooked his favorite, her legendary pot roast. The table was full, laughter flowing as freely as the wine. Even Vanessa's husband, Derek, had joined us, squeezed into the end seat with his usual easy smile. For the first time in what felt like forever, things felt good. As we passed around second helpings, Rob lifted his glass. To whoever helped us when we needed it most. I don't know who you are, but thank you, he said, his voice cracking a little. I smiled softly into my wine, content to keep my secret buried. It felt right, clean, simple, private. Then Rob, grinning now, added playfully, unless it was someone at this table? My heart jumped. I hesitated, unsure if I should own up, or keep the moment whole. But then. It was me, Vanessa said, leaning back with that wide, practiced smile. Applause broke out. Mom reached across the table to clutch Vanessa's hand, her voice thick with emotion. I knew it. You've always had such a generous heart. Rob blinked at her, clearly moved. Thank you, sweetheart. I don't even have the words. My stomach twisted. But the real curveball came from Derek. His fork hovered midair, eyebrows pinched in confusion. Wait, you did this? He asked, turning toward her. Vanessa didn't even flinch. Of course I did, she said sweetly. I didn't tell you, I wanted it to be a surprise. Derek blinked, clearly stunned, but eventually nodded and muttered something about how proud he was. I just sat there, trying to breathe through the burn in my chest. She was lying. Boldly. Effortlessly. To everyone. Even to her husband. And the worst part? She didn't hesitate for even a second. Dinner unfolded like a well-rehearsed performance. Rob shared stories from his treatment, tales of cranky nurses who eventually grew fond of him, told with enough charm to make us laugh between bites. Mom kept chiming in, full of pride over how strong he'd been. Derek couldn't help but crack jokes about Rob sweet-talking his way into extra Jell-O cups. The mood was warm, easy, full of gratitude, exactly the kind of night you'd expect when someone gets a second shot at life. But Vanessa? She couldn't look at me. Not once. Every time I glanced her way, she buried her focus in her plate or aimed her attention toward anyone but me. She was trying hard to keep up appearances, flashing those polished smiles, laughing on cue. But I saw it, the subtle tension in her posture, the white-knuckled grip on her wine glass. She knew I was watching. She knew I hadn't forgotten. And I wasn't going to say a word, not for her, but for Rob. When dinner finally wrapped up, I hugged Mom and Rob tightly, told Rob how proud I was of his strength, and slipped into my coat. As I passed Vanessa, she gave me a quick, tight-lipped smile. I didn't return it. Mom called after me to drive safe, but her voice was just a blur against the buzzing in my head as I stepped into the cold night. The drive home stretched on, every moment a rerun of the evening I couldn't stop dissecting. It should have been a celebration. Rob had made it through hell and back. Instead, it became a quiet stage play, with Vanessa standing in the spotlight, soaking up applause for a part she didn't even audition for. And the worst part? I let her. I let her rewrite the story because I didn't want to ruin the night. I chose silence. But now, sitting alone on my couch in the dark, the TV off, the room too quiet, I wasn't so sure it had been the right call. Part of me wanted to scream the truth, to call Rob, tell him everything, make sure he knew. But what would it change? He was recovering. He was finally smiling again. Telling him now would only introduce guilt into a moment that should be healing. He didn't need to be pulled into an ugly sibling rivalry. He needed to rest, rebuild, live. So I told myself I'd stay quiet. Not because Vanessa deserved it, but because he did. He didn't need to know who picked up his prescriptions or stayed up at night researching treatment side effects. He didn't need to carry the weight of wondering who really had his back. Let him believe the version that brought him peace. But the next morning, my resolve cracked. I sat at the kitchen table, staring into a cup of coffee I hadn't touched. My fingers hovered over the phone before I finally hit call. Vanessa answered on the second ring, her voice light and breezy. "Hey, Jess. Morning. Everything okay?" Like nothing had happened. Like we were sisters who shared secrets, not ones keeping them. I didn't waste time. "We need to talk about last night," I said, my voice flat, tighter than I intended. The silence on the other end lasted just a beat too long. I took a long breath, pressing the phone tighter to my ear, my jaw clenched. "I'm not the one who threw our relationship away, Vanessa. You did that the moment you decided your image, your need to be seen as the good one, was more important than honesty. More important than me." There was silence on the other end, thick and heavy. I almost thought she'd hung up. But then she spoke again, her voice quieter now, strained and trembling. "Jess. I didn't mean for it to go this far. I never get to be the one anyone talks about. You're the one people admire. You're the one who always knows what to do, who keeps the family together. I just wanted that, once. Just once." I closed my eyes, a sharp ache pressing behind them. Her words hurt, but not for the reason she'd probably thought. The pain wasn't just about what she'd done, it was about how familiar this dynamic had become. Vanessa messing up, making excuses, and me cleaning up after her, again and again, just to keep the peace. But this time, she hadn't just made a mistake. She'd robbed me of something deeply personal. "You didn't just take credit for something minor," I said, my voice steady even though my chest felt tight. "You took something I bled for. I gave up nearly everything, my savings, my plans, for Rob, for Mom. And instead of backing me up or staying quiet, you stood there while they praised you for something you didn't do. You looked me in the eye, Vanessa. And you let me disappear." Her breath caught, and I could tell she was crying now. A part of me wanted to comfort her out of habit, but I forced myself to stay firm. She needed to hear this. I needed to say it. "I didn't want recognition," I continued. "I didn't do it for applause or attention. I did it because Rob was scared and sick, and Mom didn't know how to help. And you turned that into a story about you needing validation." "I was desperate," she said through a sob. "I know I messed up, but please don't shut me out completely. I didn't think you'd care. You're always so good about things. I thought maybe, just maybe, you'd understand." "Understand?" I repeated, my voice sharper now. "I do understand. I understand what it means to give without needing anything in return. And I also understand betrayal. You knew what you were doing. You made a choice, and now I have to make mine." "Jess, come on," she said, panic edging back into her voice. "You're really going to end our relationship over this? I told you, I didn't mean to hurt you." "And yet you did," I said firmly. "You hurt me more than you realize. Not because you wanted the spotlight, but because you were willing to erase me to have it. And I can't let that slide anymore." She went quiet again, and I could hear her breathing, shaky and uneven. I waited, but she didn't say anything else. "I'm not going to tell Dad," I said, my voice quieter now, tired. "Not because of you, but because of him. He's already been through enough, and he doesn't need this." "But Vanessa," I paused, my throat tightening. "I want you out of my life. I won't pretend this didn't happen, and I won't keep bending just so you can feel better about yourself." "Jess, please," she begged again, but I didn't give her the chance. "I mean it," I said, and with one last breath, I ended the call. I sat in the silence for a long time afterward, staring at the wall, letting the weight of the moment settle in. It wasn't easy. Cutting ties with someone you've loved your whole life never is. But sometimes love isn't enough. Sometimes, choosing yourself means walking away from people who were never willing to do the same for you. And for once, I wasn't going to feel guilty about it. "You didn't mean to hurt me?" I repeated, my voice low and trembling, every syllable steeped in disbelief. "You lied to my face. You lied to your own husband. And you took something that wasn't yours, not just money, Vanessa, but something personal, something that mattered." Her lips parted like she was about to respond, but I didn't give her the chance. "You knew what that sacrifice meant to me. And you still chose to claim it, for attention, for praise, for your ego. You didn't just take credit. You took trust. And I can't get that back. I can't trust you anymore." She tried again, but I cut through the silence like a blade. "One day, this is going to catch up with you. Maybe not tomorrow. Maybe not for years. But it will. And when it does, I hope you remember this moment. I hope you remember the sister you pushed away just to look good in front of everyone else." My voice cracked near the end, but I didn't waver. "I hope it was worth it." Vanessa didn't reply. She didn't argue. The silence stretched between us, long and suffocating, until I finally ended the call. I stared at the screen, my hands shaking, the weight of it all settling in. I felt scraped raw. Empty. But at least I'd spoken the truth. A year passed. Vanessa and I never recovered. We saw each other, birthdays, holidays, summer barbecues, but our connection had dissolved. We were civil, even polite. But we weren't sisters anymore. We were strangers who shared the same blood. The tension was thick, palpable in every forced smile, every moment we avoided eye contact across the dinner table. Mom noticed first. After a Sunday meal, she pulled me aside in the hallway, her face creased with concern. "Jessica," she said gently, "what's going on between you and Vanessa? You used to be inseparable." I gave her a shrug and a practiced smile. "Nothing's wrong. Just life. We're busy." But she didn't look convinced. Rob noticed too. That Christmas, as we cleared the dishes, he looked over with a puzzled frown. "You two don't sit together anymore," he said. "You used to laugh nonstop. What happened?" I forced a chuckle and changed the subject before the ache in my chest could give me away. Then, a few months later, Vanessa started reaching out. Little texts at first. "Hey, how's work? Mom says you've been super busy. Hope you're okay." I didn't answer. I couldn't. Every message felt like a pinprick, too late, too little, too hollow. At family gatherings, she tried harder. Asked about my job. Tried to make small talk. I kept my answers short, polite. Never cruel, just distant. Untouchable. At one dinner, she caught me alone in the kitchen, my hand wrapped around a glass of water. "Jess," she said carefully, "I know things have been off between us. But maybe we could grab coffee sometime. Just talk." I didn't even turn to look at her. "I'm busy." I walked away. She sighed behind me, but I didn't look back. Whatever she was hoping to repair, a few polite texts and a guilt-laced coffee invite wouldn't fix it. Then, weeks later, Mom said something that caught me off guard. Vanessa's been going to church lately, she said, cautiously watching my face. She told me she's been feeling empty. Like something's missing. She said she's been thinking about life. About the kind of person she wants to be. I didn't say anything right away. Empty? She should have thought about that before she hollowed me out to make room for herself. I raised an eyebrow but didn't say a word. Vanessa, going to church? That didn't track. She'd never been the spiritual type. Too busy, too modern, too polished for that kind of thing. Mom must have caught the look on my face, because she quickly added, I think it's been good for her. She seems calmer. More thoughtful. Maybe this is what she needed. I nodded absently, but the skepticism stayed. It felt like just another one of Vanessa's attempts at redemption. And I wasn't buying it. People don't just wake up one day and become someone new. I wasn't ready to let my guard down, at least, not yet. Then one evening, just as I was settling onto the couch with a book, my phone buzzed across the coffee table. I glanced down. Vanessa. My first instinct was to let it ring, like I had so many times before. But something, curiosity maybe, or that quiet tug of unfinished business, made me pick up. Jess, she said, her voice softer than I'd ever heard it. I know I'm probably the last person you want to hear from, but I need to tell you something. I didn't say anything. Just gripped the phone tighter. She took a shaky breath. I'd been sitting with what I did. What I said that night. I thought I could just move on, pretend it didn't matter, but it does. It matters more than I ever let on. Before I could stop myself, the words slipped out. Should I say, I told you so now? My tone was sharp, years of frustration pressing against the edges. On the other end, she let out a shaky exhale. For a second, I thought she might hang up. You'd have every right, she said finally, her voice cracked and raw. You warned me. You were right. I thought I could carry the lie, but every time Dad looks at me like I'm his hero, it guts me. I don't deserve it. And I know I don't deserve your forgiveness either. Her voice wavered again. I've wanted to come clean so many times, Jess. But I'm scared. What's Dad going to think when he finds out? What about Mom? She trusted me. And Derek, he doesn't even know. How do I tell him? How do I explain something like this? I sat in silence, her words settling like dust in the quiet. For all the damage she'd caused, I could hear it now, genuine fear, guilt so thick it was choking her. You're afraid of how they'll react, I said evenly. But what did you think would happen when you took credit for something you didn't do? That the truth would just stay buried forever? I sighed, steadying my voice. Look, Vanessa. I'm not here to drag you into the light. This is your mess. Your choice. I already made mine, staying quiet for Rob's sake. But your guilt? Your conscience? That's yours to carry. No one can fix that but you. There was a long pause on the other end. The kind that made you wonder if the line had gone dead. Finally, I heard her whisper, I don't know if I can, Jess. I don't know if I'm strong enough to face it. And for the first time, she didn't sound like Vanessa, the woman who always had a comeback, a mask, a plan. She just sounded human. Flawed. Frightened. And maybe, just maybe, that was a start. Vanessa swallowed hard, her eyes flicking briefly to mine before dropping back to the floor. She looked small in that moment, not the version of her who always had something clever to say, not the one who soaked up attention with ease, but someone raw and exposed. It's about the money, she said finally, her voice barely more than a whisper. The $10,000 for Rob's bills. Everyone thought I paid it. That it came from me. The silence in the room thickened. I didn't move. My breath was steady, but inside, my heart was hammering. Vanessa went on, her voice gaining the smallest bit of strength. But it didn't. It wasn't me. It was Jess. Mom blinked, confused. What, she said softly. Vanessa nodded, a tear slipping down her cheek. Jess paid the bills. She emptied her savings to make sure Rob didn't have to worry. I found out, and I let everyone believe it was me. I didn't correct it. I wanted to be the one who did something big for once. I wanted to feel like I mattered. Rob looked at me slowly, stunned. Is that true? I didn't answer right away. I was watching Vanessa, letting her carry the weight this time. She looked at me, her face trembling, and I finally nodded once. I'm so sorry, Jess, she said, her voice breaking. I should have told the truth a long time ago. I just didn't know how to fix it. I know I don't deserve your forgiveness, but I needed to say it. Derek reached for her hand, giving it a reassuring squeeze. My mother sat frozen, her eyes darting between us, as if trying to put the pieces back together. I didn't tell you because I didn't want the attention, I said quietly, looking at everyone. I just wanted to help Rob. But when Vanessa let everyone believe it was her, and no one questioned it, I realized that maybe it was easier to believe the story that fit. There were no accusations in my tone, just truth. And the truth, finally spoken aloud, settled like a storm passing. Rob exhaled slowly, a mix of guilt and gratitude in his eyes. Jess, thank you. I don't even know what to say. Mom wiped at her eyes. I feel awful. I should have known. No, I said, my voice firm but calm. You could have known. But you didn't ask. And I didn't say anything. So we all carry a little of the blame. Vanessa nodded tearfully. I'll spend the rest of my life trying to earn back your trust, Jess. I know it won't be easy. But I meant it when I said I'm trying to change. The room was still, the air heavy, but not bitter. For the first time, the silence wasn't weighted with lies, it was filled with truth. And somehow, even though nothing could undo what had been done, something inside me finally loosened. Not everything had been fixed, but maybe, just maybe, it had finally begun to heal. Vanessa took a shaky breath, her hands trembling as she stood at the center of the room. There's something I've been carrying for the past year, she said, her voice already cracking at the edges. And I can't hold it in anymore. She paused, eyes flicking toward me before dropping to her clasped hands. When Dad was recovering from treatment last year, during that dinner we had to celebrate, I did something I've regretted every single day since. Her composure wavered. She looked smaller somehow, fragile, as she admitted, when Dad thanked the person who paid off his medical debt, I told everyone it was me. But it wasn't. The words hung in the air like a siren. It was Jessica, she said, eyes glistening as she turned to face me. She's the one who used her savings. She's the one who quietly made sure you didn't have to worry about the bills. And I stole that moment. I took her sacrifice and made it mine because I was desperate, for Dad's pride, for something to make me feel like I mattered. Her knees buckled and she sank to the floor, folding her hands like she was praying, tears falling freely now. I'm so sorry, Jess. I betrayed your trust. I lied to everyone here. I hurt you in a way that I can't undo. Mom gasped softly, her hand covering her mouth, while Rob's eyes filled with disbelief. Derek moved beside Vanessa, steadying her with a hand on her shoulder. She didn't move, she just wept, completely unguarded. I've been drowning in guilt, she continued, voice hoarse, and I couldn't keep pretending. Jessica didn't tell anyone what I did, not because she was afraid, but because she didn't want to burden Dad. She put his peace of mind above her own. She turned her tear-streaked face toward me again, her voice barely a whisper. You're good, Jess. You're the most selfless person I know. And I took advantage of that. You stayed silent while I soaked up praise I didn't deserve. I kept telling myself I'd make it right, but I waited too long. Her shoulders shook as she wiped at her face with trembling hands. I spent so long trying to feel like I was enough. I thought I was competing with you, but really, I was just chasing something inside myself. You never tried to make me feel small, I did that all on my own. She buried her face in her palms, the room still and heavy around her. Rob and Mom were frozen, both visibly shaken. Derek wrapped an arm around her, trying to comfort her, but Vanessa didn't look up. And all eyes, eventually, turned to me. And for the first time in a long time I didn't know what to say. My heart twisted, not with anger, not with satisfaction, but with something more complicated. It wasn't simple anymore. It's been 6 months since that night. Since Vanessa knelt on the floor and spoke the truth for the first time. Things haven't returned to the way they were, and maybe they never will. But the silence between us has shifted into something else. Not forgiveness, not exactly. But something closer to understanding. And that, I didn't expect. Vanessa's different now, quieter, more thoughtful. The bravado she used to wear like armor has softened into something more real. She still reaches out, though I can tell it's not easy for her. The messages are small: saw this and thought of you, or Mom mentioned you weren't feeling well. Hope you're okay. Little gestures, but they land differently now. Less performative. More human. Rob and Mom took the truth better than I expected. Rob was clearly disappointed, you could see it in his eyes, but his love for Vanessa didn't falter. If anything, he's leaned more into kindness, into connection. With me, he's warmer than he's ever been. It's in the small things, saving me the best slice of pie, checking in on my work with genuine interest, even remembering the name of my supervisor when I didn't think he was listening. It's strange how one difficult night managed to shift something between us. We're not perfect, not even close, but there's an honesty now that wasn't there before. A fragile kind of closeness we're still learning how to hold. And Vanessa? She's still trying. Day by day. To be better, to be real. And for the first time, I think she's not doing it to be seen or forgiven, she's doing it because she knows it's time. And maybe, just maybe, that's enough.